Study Session 4: Disarmament and Arms Control. Introduction. In the previous study session, we learned about Cold War, arms race, and their effects. In this study session, we shall discuss disarmament and arms control measures. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this study session, you should be able to differentiate between disarmament and arms control, explain the importance and problems of disarmament, and enumerate the factors fueling armament. Disarmament. Let us start this discussion by first understanding the meaning of the key terms. Armament means building up or accumulating arms or weapon systems. To disarm means to reduce or limit the size of armament or to deprive of arms, that is, tools of attack or defense. Whereas in disarmament talks between nations, the focus is on reduction of arms and not total removal or deprivation of arms, since all nations agree that self-protection is necessary, as seen in Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. Disarmament will therefore be taken as the reduction or limitation of the size and equipment of armament possessed by nations. This mainly affects already produced weapon systems. Part of the earlier moves to disarm nations can be seen in the 1922 agreement by major powers to limit the size of their navies at the Washington Disarmament Conference. Also, in 1928, the Kellogg-Briand Pact outlawing war was signed by USA and 62 other nations in Paris. Such pacts make the use of arms unnecessary and therefore limit the armaments. Reasons for disarmament. Why is disarmament necessary? There are several reasons that underline the need to disarm. 1. To remove the danger and fear of war and destruction. 2. To release huge amounts of funds for socio-economic development from the armament sector, e.g., one frigate, that is, warship, costs about $150 million. This money will pay for the salary of a grade 2 teacher earning 200 naira a month for 750,000 months. It can be used to establish several factories to generate employment and produce socio-economic services and goods. 3. To increase security among nations and peoples of the world. It is believed that armament increases militarization and reduces peace and security. 4. To promote civil and social rights of citizens by satisfying their basic needs as water, light, health services, education, shelter, and roads. Despite the above needs for disarmament, there have been problems here and there. 1. Governments lack the political will to disarm. This is because some of them fear that if they disarm, others may not, thus endangering national security and survival. 2. Arms are seen today as prestige symbols. Nuclear power states feel proud and more secure and higher in status than non-nuclear states. So many nations want armament instead of disarmament. 3. The dynamics of military technology, including research and development, R&D, promote armaments. D. There are people who benefit from armaments: soldiers, military scientists, and weapon designers. The weapon manufacturers and arms hawkers are all interested in more and better arms instead of less arms. 5. Arms trade, that is, exports, yield huge foreign exchange for the arms producers. And 6. Arms are seen as deterrent against attacks from outside. These problems make the prospects of achieving disarmament very bleak. Note: in disarmament talks between nations, the focus is on reduction of arms and not total removal or deprivation of arms, since all nations agree that self-protection is necessary, as seen in Article 51 of the United Nations Organization Charter. Arms are seen as deterrent against attacks from outside. This, among other problems, make the prospects of achieving disarmament very bleak. Arms control. Unlike disarmament that moves in the direction of reducing the quantity of arms possessed by a state, or, if possible, removing the arms completely, arms control mainly involves exercising restraint in the production of new quality weapons and the quantity of such weapons. It also focuses on the limitation of spread of weapon systems, such as preventing the proliferation of nuclear weapons. Several states are being used to control arms, that is, weapons of destruction. These include the signing of bilateral, that is, between two nations, or multilateral, between many nations, treaties. Public or world opinion against armaments. United Nations resolutions and campaigns, such as the United Nations launched a world disarmament campaign on June 7, 1982. Criticisms of other nations against arms production and arms accumulation and anti-armament protests or movements. African states play only very little role in this disarmament and arms control struggle. As observed earlier in study session 3, arms race affects Africa adversely because they create international tension, provoke war between African states, force African states to acquire more and more weapons, thus diverting useful and scarce foreign exchange into military sector, and they threaten our security. Not only these, if there is any nuclear war anywhere in the world, the particles will surely reach Africa. Unfortunately, Africa is in a weak position to stop the arms race or armament. South African states don't produce arms. All Africa can do is to reduce or refuse purchasing more arms, thus reducing the market. Another problem is that only a few states in Africa are stable, thus needing arms. If such states don't purchase arms, they may be exposed to attacks. The role Africa plays is to persuade and pressurize arms producers to disarm. African states can also refuse supplying the producers with the raw materials such as uranium, and they, the African states, can reduce importation of arms. All these will have significant effects on arms production and stockpiling. Treaties on arms control and disarmament. Numerous treaties or agreements have been entered into by states in attempts to control arms and promote disarmament. Some of these treaties are enumerated below for your general knowledge. Detailed study of the treaties can be made from a pamphlet labeled United Nations and Disarmament, 1945 to 1985. 1. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959. It provides for the demilitarization of Antarctica. 2. The treaty banning nuclear weapons tests in the atmosphere, in outer space, and underwater. Partial Test Ban Treaty, 1963. 3. The Treaty on Principles Governing the Activities of States in the Exploration and Use of Outer Space of 1967. 4. The Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons in Latin America of 1967. 5. The Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons of 1968. It aims at preventing the spread of nuclear weapons and promoting nuclear disarmament. 6. The Treaty on the Prohibition of the Emplacement of Nuclear Weapons and Other Weapons of Mass Destruction on Seabed and Ocean Floor and the Subsoil, which was held in 1971. 7. The Biological Weapons Convention of 1972. 8. The Convention on the Prohibition of Military or any other hostile use of environment modification techniques of 1977. 9. The Agreement on Celestial Bodies of 1979. It prohibits the use of the moon and other celestial bodies for military purposes. 10. The Treaty on the Limitation of Anti-Ballistic Missile Systems of 1974. 11. Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty, SALT, between USA and USSR of 1972. It established limits for a 5-year period on the number of launches of strategic weapons. 12. Test Ban Treaty of 1974. It prohibits underground nuclear weapon testing having a yield of over 150 kilotons. 13. Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty, SALT I, between USA and USSR, 1979, and so on. There was another agreement, INF, between the US and the USSR in 1987, limiting the number of certain strategic nuclear weapons. All these treaties, though effective to some extent in their specific areas of focus, have not helped much in disarmament campaigns. Suggestions to promote arms control and disarmament could include complete declaration by the United Nations Organization of all threat or use of nuclear weapons as a crime against humanity, and thus completely outlawed. The UNO Center for Disarmament need to take part in disarmament and arms control agreement for more effective implementation. Arms trade and transfer of military technology should be halted. Nuclear weapons tests should be banned completely, including military research and development in the field. And the formation of more open popular movements against armaments should be encouraged. Activity. Most experts agree that nuclear weapons are so powerful that they are capable of totally annihilating entire countries, even continents. Why then did Jonathan Schell and Richard N. Hasmek counter-argument. See their article on Microsoft Encarta, 2009. Forward your response to your tutor on Study Session 4 assignment page on course website. Study Session Summary. In this study session, you explored the concept of disarmament and arms control. Disarmament is the reduction or limitation of weapon systems, while arms control focuses mainly on imposing restraints on new weapons development and spread. Disarmament is very necessary so as to remove wars and reduce their destructive capacity when they occur. Arms control takes the form of treaties, public opinion, UNO campaigns, and so on. End of study session 4. Thanks for listening.